Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Take. Carrie Champion here with, all week long, Stephen A. Smith.
I do recall promising y'all last week I would be in the house.
How about tomorrow?
Well, no, you're not going to be here.
Exactly.
You got
No,
Yeah.
I got some.
I'm going to be on the show.
Yeah.
I will be on the show too.
Okay.
We're doing a remote show. We let
that?
them know it's a remote show. Good morning, gentlemen.
What's up, buddy?
We have a lot going on the show today. Coming up on the show, former NFL Pro Bowl receiver TJ Houshmandzadeh will join the desk as our guest debater. Plus, Steve Smith, you said he handled it with dignity the other day after the win. However, days later, he has something to say. We will talk about that. But first, let's get to this Thursday night game, shall we? Vikings, Packers. Green Bay is favored by 8 points. Aaron Rodgers last week told the fans to just basically relax and then responded to critics by completing every drive in Week 4 with at least a field goal attempt. While the Vikings have yet to decide who will be under center, Teddy Bridgewater or Christian Ponder, both teams are at 2-2, looking to catch the Lions, who are leading the division at 3-1.
That takes the pressure off of some people for sure, because it's on my words, and obviously I have to back those up because I'm saying, hey, everything's going to be okay, and I haven't played as well as I wanted to yet, and our offense hasn't, and then we come out and we have a pretty good performance, and maybe they'll relax a little bit for a few weeks.
All right, well, let's see what's happening. So games tonight, Stephen A. What do you expect? Who's going to win?
Skip Bayless, Carrie Champion. I got to tell you that normally, considering the fact that Teddy Bridgewater is in the house and that seemed to have infused the Minnesota Vikings just a little bit, that it would be popular to go along the lines of, well, the Minnesota Vikings are going to roll up into Green Bay and they're going to handle their business. However, the key thing is that they're going to be at Lambeau Field. They're going to be on the home turf of the bad man that he is, who returned to being a bad man last week against your Chicago Bears.
In a shock to you.
And I'm telling you right now, although I expect Teddy Bridgewater to play, Teddy Bridgewater to play.
He's so good, he can be Terry.
He can be whatever he wants right now. The bottom line is very, very simple. He ain't the bad man. That bad man is Aaron Rodgers. Now, I do understand they have thrown me for a loop here. I didn't expect, once AP went down, obviously he's out because of his whole child abuse situation. I didn't expect this kid, Jared McKinnon, to come out of the woodwork and do what he did. But the guy had 18 carries for 135 yards, albeit against an Atlanta defense that is highly suspect. But Green Bay isn't exactly the Seattle Seahawks or the San Francisco 49ers. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're capable of doing it against Atlanta, you're capable of doing it against Green Bay. I also saw this dude. I'm expecting Cordarrelle Patterson to really step up and do his thing. He only had 2 receptions last week. The dude that did it was this kid, Jarius Wright. 8 receptions, 132 yards. I'm kind of shocked by all of this.
Yep. So
you got Wright. You still got Greg Jennings. You still got Cordarrelle Patterson. All right, this kid McKinnon, if he could do some things, they can make things interesting. I expect a battle. But in the end, you are in Green Bay. You are going up against that bad man, Aaron Rodgers, okay? Jordy Nelson is still there. Randall Cobb, there was a sighting last week.
There was a big
So
sighting.
I'm looking at it from the perspective that Green Bay is getting their groove back, okay? They understand they don't need to go 2-3. Aaron Rodgers told us to relax, pump the brakes. That's what we did. And next thing you know, he responded the way a champion and a great player responds. And I anticipate.
Wait, he's a champion?
No.
Aaron Rodgers.
I'm sorry. He doesn't have a Super Bowl championship.
When was that?
What?
Oh, it was a long time ago.
You forgot.
I forgot. It's been so long.
But you remember Tom Brady. Wow. You remember Tom Brady.
Got 3.
You remember Tom. Well, I'm sorry. Aaron Rodgers wasn't even a quarterback when Tom Brady was winning Super Bowls. So that was a long time ago.
It's not like New England has played in 3 straight AFC Championship games. But go ahead.
I'm sorry. And Aaron Rodgers simply won a Super Bowl. You call it whatever you want. So what?
I don't know.
They win every year. Peyton Manning has won Super Bowl in 16 years. I don't hear you saying anything about him. Be quiet, zip it until I finish my point. The point that I'm trying to make to you is that the Packers are going to win this game tonight because they're at Lambeau Field. They're on their home turf, and this is a divisional game, and they know they don't need to lose even more ground against Detroit. I'm picking the Packers to win tonight's game 33-24.
33-24. You know, it's interesting. As you made your case, it sounded to me a whole lot suspiciously like you were having to talk yourself into the bad man who is Aaron Rodgers.
You can believe what you want. You're usually wrong anyway, so I mean, you're wrong here. No, I was not.
I think you have some trepidation about this pick. Well, that's what I just heard in your voice.
I don't have any trepidation. I always have a little bit of trepidation when it comes to Green Bay's defense.
Okay.
But I have no trepidation about Aaron Rodgers. I have no trepidation about him. He's a bad man, Skip.
You know what? He was a bad man against the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field.
Yes, he was.
No shock to me because I predicted he would be a bad man. You did not, but that's okay.
Oh, whatever.
So back to your team, your Green Bay Packers. And I look
Reverse
at
psychology.
24th overall in defensive efficiency. They're just not very good on defense. And I look at their running game, ranked 28th in the National Football League. 28?
I'm not happy about
Where's Eddie Lacy? I don't know. He's not sure. He doesn't say he says he's not very comfortable in the shotgun, trying to run out of the shotgun. So I look at this football team, and you said you did have a Randall Cobb sighting, but it's sort of bad man or bust for the Green Bay Packers, right? Isn't he the whole show now?
I agree with that.
So when he says to RELAX, you know, it's all on him to make you relax, right? Because he either has to have a huge game or I don't think they're very good without him being the bad man that he often is. I'll give you often. So now let's swing it around to the other quarterback. Will Teddy Bridgewater play tonight? I don't know for sure. They're saying it's more of a game time decision. Maybe there's been some report here in the last 5 minutes that I don't know about, but they haven't said anything yet. I'm going to guess that Teddy Bridgewater will play. He said he felt pretty good.
So am I.
Right? So let's guess that he does.
I'm making my assumption. The assumption he's going to.
All right. So I'm going to base my pick on the fact that Teddy will play at Lambeau Field, and that, frankly, I think he's going to play like a rookie tonight. Okay. Just tonight. This is prime time Thursday night by yourself football. And Stephen A., I'm not going to back off what I thought of Teddy before the draft. He had an absurdly great first game last week, just absurdly great. 19 to 30 for 317, and he ran it 5 times for 27 yards. A QBR of 85.6 on a scale of 100.
Was impressive.
It was spectacular. Did he catch Atlanta a little by surprise? And we're talking about a reeling Atlanta that is just coming apart at the seams now after they demolished Tampa, right?
Now they're having more problems on the offensive line.
They've lost 2 more starters. Okay, that's a whole nother issue.
Whole nother issue.
So Minnesota wins at Minnesota 41-28. And I will say this for Mike Zimmer. He can really coach defense. And all of a sudden, they're 12th in the NFL in points allowed. That's pretty good. So every game, except for the New England game where it got out of hand because they had some special teams turnovers, they hang in because the defense is hanging in. It's keeping them in the ball game. So I'm going to say that tonight Aaron Rodgers has another what I would call great game. I'm going to say that Aaron Rodgers puts up 30 points and that Teddy Bridgewater is going to have a long night. I'll give them 17 because Green Bay is so bad on defense, but I'll say Teddy throws his first couple of interceptions because that's just usually what happens to rookies. Okay, so now let's look back at what happened right before the draft. Why did he last until the 32nd pick in the draft? Why did Teddy Bridgewater last? Because late in his year, I talked again and again about this on this show, in those last few games against Houston, Memphis, Cincinnati, he wasn't very accurate. And then what happened, remember, at his pro day?
Yeah, oh, my gosh.
He said it was because he didn't wear his gloves. I don't know. Then he said nervous. He didn't feel very well. He looked scared. He just looked scared. Yeah. Do you remember this?
Looked scared where?
At the pro day. His individual pro day.
Okay.
He couldn't throw a spiral. Yeah. He was throwing curveballs in the dirt on his pro day with no defense out there, obviously. And it really made me question, and it made the whole first round question, which is why he fell all the way to 32nd. North Turner can really coach young kids. He's really good at this. So he's getting him in the perfect position to do the best he can do. I'm going to say that over time that he turns out to be just a pretty good quarterback and not that guy who went 19 of 30.
Well, let's be clear about something here. I mean, I don't know how much stock you're placing in the pro day.
Quite a bit.
You know, for me personally, I think the jitters that he experienced during pro day, I think it's safe to say that's over. Okay? If he's going to have jitters, it was going to be last week in an NFL game.
You might not have them tonight.
Oh, I'm just saying, why would you have jitters on pro day don't have jitters against the Atlanta Falcons in a regular season game, your very first, but then all of a sudden you're going to have jitters tonight. I don't believe
low
that.
expectations in your first start for a bad team.
I don't believe that, because if you remember, the Minnesota Vikings opened the season beating up on St. Louis, and then after that they lost 2 straight, and everybody was talking about how Teddy Bridgewater's time was coming because you didn't anticipate that Matt Castle would be that guy. So because of it, I don't think it was low expectations at all. I just think that pro day is far different, and I think a lot of people have to take into consideration, whether it's pro day, it's the NFL scouting combine, you're dissected, the kind of questions that you have to endure. There's so many things beyond just football that affects your psyche, that when you go out there, it may end up affecting you in a very detrimental fashion. But when you're on the field on the Sunday, it's just about playing football.
Okay.
And that's what it is.
So lay it on the line. What do you see for project Teddy Bridgewater? Is he going to be a star?
I think Teddy Bridgewater has the potential to be a star. I don't think he's going to be a scrub. I don't think we're going to look at him, nor do I believe we're going to be talking about him the way that we talk about Geno. I do believe, however, my concern with Teddy Bridgewater is his size. He sat up here. We met him. Yeah. Incredibly nice kid.
Although, can I say this real quick? Now, I don't find him to have a dynamic personality.
No, he doesn't.
Like leadership.
He does not,
right?
and that's fine. Okay. And that's fine. But what I'm saying to you is that I think his size is a factor.
Yeah.
Because let's face reality, there's some massive dudes in the NFL. I mean, you see some of these dudes, you're like, Lord, don't even breathe on me. Right. That's how big they are. Yep. So imagine them putting licks on Teddy Bridgewater. I sincerely wonder what level of durability he's going to be able to have over the course of his NFL career. But outside of that, I look at him in terms of his poise, his decision-making, the fact that the team talks about, and they're not always raving about it. They're almost saying that he's too cool, to a fault to some degree. He just doesn't seem to be fazed. I think in his situation, that's going to bode well for him. And as a result, I don't think he'll ever be bad. It's just a matter of whether he'll be good or great.
Okay. We both picked Green Bay to win this division. You hanging in with that?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
I think we both picked the Lions to win a wild card.
Yes.
I'm definitely hanging in with that, and I'm going to hang in with my pick.
I certainly didn't pick Chicago to go to the playoffs, I can tell you that.
Neither did I.
If I did, I had amnesia that day.
Yep. 30-17.
Okay, and Stephen A. says 33-24. This update, again, the latest on Teddy Bridgewater, says he, quote, feels pretty good. As mentioned, Vikings have him still as questionable tonight.
Teddy Bridgewater will play tonight.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think he probably will. Gentlemen, to the AFC North, shall we? And the Baltimore Ravens. Steve Smith Sr., not related to this guy sitting to my right, with the signature game against his old team, was all business on Sunday. But a few days later, he's now talking about the personal nature of his departure from the Panthers.
Every time I keep reading stuff and reports coming out, I just think I was stabbed in the back. And just like, Coach Rivera said, he wasn't a sore loser, but he never even spoke to me through the whole ordeal. Not one time. He didn't look at me man to man and say, man, this was going down. He said he's a player's coach. He never came in and said, hey, Smitty, this was going on, man. Just want to get a heads up. We're moving on. He hid in his office. And now that I play well, you're going to try to say that I'm a distraction. I'm always been a distraction, but yet I didn't beat my wife. Yeah, I hit some teammates 6 and 7 years ago, but I didn't beat my wife. I didn't get arrested for DUIs. I didn't fall off no motorcycles. All I did is do charity work and did Charlotte. I made mistakes. Building this big old crutch about it, like as if, I pushed their hand.
It's interesting because after the win, we thought it was a bit demure, and as Skip said, it was dignity. He handled the win with dignity. A few days later, he's letting everyone know what exactly happened, at least his version. He also said there were reports that he was jealous of Cam Newton and, as mentioned, divisive in the locker room. Stephen A. Smith, your take on this?
I absolutely, positively loved what Steve had to say. Absolutely. Didn't bother me at all. I don't want to hear anything about him being unprofessional or Bush League or anything like that. Steve Smith is coming to the defense of Steve Smith because so many people have done so much talking about Steve Smith that Steve Smith got tired of it and felt the need to speak on behalf of Steve Smith. There's absolutely, positively nothing wrong with that. A matter of fact, let me say for the record, I personally am jealous of Steve Smith Sr., the best name in football. I mean, the fact that he had a complete jealousy, and anybody who knows me knows I'm not talking about football because I've never played football. I never aspired to be an NFL player. Please, I was too slim. I cracked my bones in half in the first play. In my career, it would have been over for me. So let's stop that, even though none of them can ball against me. But that's a different subject altogether in terms of basketball. Now, back to the point that I'm trying to make here.
You lost me.
I know that part. But what I'm saying is, in all seriousness, anybody can appreciate the fact that you feel the need to speak up for yourself. This dude was a guy that starred for the Carolina Panthers for over a decade. Yep. He had 7 1,000-plus yard seasons in his career. There were plenty of years when the Carolina Panthers were completely inept and devoid of anything, and Steve Smith made them relevant because of what he could do on a football field. And when you consider what he meant to the Carolina Panthers organization, whether you cut him or trade him is one thing. How you go about doing it is another. You want to sit there and you want to talk about him? Listen, we heard a lot of things about Steve Smith once he was traded. We heard he was a distraction. We did hear he was jealous of Cam Newton. We heard a lot of these different things. Where was that coming from? Where was that coming from? It was coming from the Carolina Panthers. Yeah. And so the fact that this dude waited, shut his mouth, went on the field, blew you away, and then afterwards said, listen, y'all still talking. All right, I've had enough. And it wasn't like he sat there, Skip, at his locker and spoke to reporters. Oh, no. He called the Carolina radio station.
He called in.
He called in
I have something
and
to say.
said, enough's enough. You know why? Because this dude, I'm going to tell you something about Steve Smith, and I've met him a couple of times, obviously. The guy is not a liar. I've never heard anybody accuse him of being dishonest or anything less than real or authentic. And I appreciate, oh, my Lord, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that the man spoke up for himself. I'm jealous because he actually had a license to do so. Some of us really do wish we could speak up for ourselves more often than we allowed to. And I'll just leave it at that.
Some of us actually fire back to those fools on Twitter who come after you. Some of us do occasionally.
No, that's fun for me. Fun for me. I don't mind cussing people out on Twitter from time.
Yeah, I know.
I enjoy it.
It's your brand.
That's a joy. No, it's not my brand.
They like it when you go at them.
I've cut down on that significantly. I listen to you.
Thank you.
And you're right. But occasionally, when they get out of hand, sometimes.
What's out of hand?
Some of the things that they say that can't be repeated over FCC.
No, okay.
You know, that's when I that's when I shut it down.
Knock it off, guys.
What we're hearing right now is that Stephen A. Smith has some Steve Smith in him.
Oh, okay.
Or vice versa.
Okay.
Well, I'm older.
Well, he's older.
I'll give you that.
Yes.
I will
I'm
give
older.
you that.
I'm older. Only because I'm older.
Silly me, as you open up this discussion with, I applauded Steve Smith for dominating with dignity on the field on Sunday. Because he did. There's no chest beating. There's no ball spinning. He rubbed it in the right way, which is just hand the ball to the ref and walk away, and don't show them that you miss them. You know, don't show them that you're still angry and your heart's really still on their side. And then he just couldn't contain himself. So much for class and dignity. You know what? I'm wrestling with this because I wished he had stayed above the fray on this one because it's over. It's done. He's in a really good place, playing for a great general manager who really, really wanted him on that team. It's a great fit for him because Joe Flacco loves him. They love veteran, tough receivers. And he's becoming the go-to guy for a Flacco who desperately needed, without Pitta, as you keep bringing up, that go-to guy.
Right.
So he won. He's okay. He's, you know, at 35 years of age, you couldn't, seriously, could you ask for a better spot to be in?
Nope.
Seriously, could you? He's really, so you could just shake it off and go on. But he said he heard a report on NFL Network, it was actually last week, that said he refused a pay cut and demanded his release from the Panthers. So he had to call in yesterday, and here we went. And even, I thought it was a little bit of a low blow to say Ron Rivera hid in his office. I don't know if he hid in his office. I'm not sure about that. But Ron tried to go over to him after the game and shake his hand. And then it hurt Steve because he said, I thought we were boys.
Yeah,
and now you're coming to me now? Okay. Yeah. Okay, I get all that. Here's why I'm going to give him a little break. Steve Smith was not highly recruited out of high school because he's just a little guy. Right now he's listed at 5'9", 185.
Short. Yeah. He ain't little.
No, but he's got some stoutness to him. But anyway, he was always too little coming up through high school. So he went to Utah, still a pretty good school, but he wasn't recruited by the top schools out in your part of the country. And he fought his way up, and he was a third-round pick for Carolina. Not bad. And then he just went in and took over. I thought he took over the league for a while because there were a couple of years he was the best receiver in football. How did he do that? Because he played with a giant chip on his shoulder pads every game. You don't think I can do this. You don't think I can do that. Watch me do this to you. I might be short, but I'm strong and I'm tough and I'm tougher than you are. And so whatever that persona is that fuels him, it's still fueling him. He needs to fight publicly because it puts some pressure on him to back it up. That's how he's built. So I'm going to give him a little break. I wouldn't have done it this way. You would have fought with yourself, and I'm not sure.
I'm going to tell you what I would have done. I'm going to tell you what I would have done. I would have done exactly what he did. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Skip Bayless.
Would you have said your coach hid in his office?
Well, if he did hid in his office, I would have said it. And what I mean by that is this, Skip. Listen, I pride myself in being a consummate professional. I've had issues in my career, whatever. But in the end, there is no boss, there is no colleague that could tell you that I go out and publicly decry. I don't do that. But at the same time, people in this profession who know me know, you push me, I'm going to push back. Don't make me. I will crush you. I will not hesitate if you start something because I know I'm not going to. So when you look at Ron Rivera, you've been losing. Last year was your first winning season. This is your 4th year in Carolina. When you were nothing, this guy was carrying you.
That's fair.
Listen, you're going to let him go. Let him go. How is Steve Smith calling into a radio station in Charlotte, North Carolina in October? And he's saying he never spoke to you. You never picked up the phone. You never went to see him. You never sat there and said, thanks for your years of service.
He just texted him after he was...
Come on, man. You know, Ron Rivera's got to be better than that. Okay? Gettleman, the general manager. You're going to sit there and you're going to look in his face and tell his agent he's a distraction, he's a cancer to this team. Did you feel that way before you were winning? Because last time I checked, we never heard that about Steve Smith until you actually got to the playoffs last year. And then all of a sudden, now we want to sit there and point the finger at Steve Smith. My only point is, when somebody is being attacked, if you sat there and said, look, he's 35, we want to move in a different direction, and you implied that it's time for a new era, Skip, that's business. He needs to grow up. But I remember, and it harkens me back to Mark Jackson, when Mark Jackson was dismissed as head coach from Golden State. Mark Jackson comes on my radio show and literally says, just leave me my dignity. You got the job. You don't have to pay me anymore. You know, could you leave me my dignity, please? Don't start talking about, well, I was gone on Sunday mornings and I did this and I didn't get along with this person. Don't do that to me, because what you're doing is you're trying to impede and inhibit my ability to move beyond you. But then you're going to sit there and complain when I come back at you and bring all of that into question. This is the problem with this PC society that we live in, with everything, because what happens is people attack you and then get mad when you respond. The instigator doesn't get to dictate how you respond. You don't want somebody responding to you, don't instigate. Instigate and be prepared to handle what's going to come your way. That's the thing. Everybody can't do that 24-hour rule like you guys. It's a great rule on your part. But some of us, no. Can't do that.
Maybe a week in some cases.
I'm not you. I'm not you. I want to attack back. I'm sorry.
Well, so do I. But I usually don't. You have to push me farther than you push you.
You're right about that.
You watched this last night. Madison Bumgarner and the Giants shut out the Pirates to advance to the NLDS against the Nationals. Bumgarner joined Justin Verlander and Sandy Koufax as the only pitchers in postseason history to have at least 10 strikeouts and a shutout and a winner-take-all game.
It's fun. You know, if you're not playing, you can be excited and nervous and all that. But if you're pitching and playing in the game, you got to find a way to push all that aside and come out here and just try to make pitches like we did tonight. And that's it.
In comparison, let's look at one Clayton Kershaw. He's been more dominant on the mound. He finished the season with the 1.77 ERA. He becomes the first pitcher to lead the major leagues in ERA in 4 straight seasons. But let's just do the eye test, because you see the comparisons there between the two. Right now, at this moment, which ace would you rather have, Skip Bayless?
I don't need the eye test.
All right.
I'll go better than the eye test.
Okay.
one game from my life, I want Madison Bumgarner on my mound. And that may seem like a crazy and outrageous position to take, considering that Clayton Kershaw just had arguably the greatest regular season we've ever witnessed a pitcher have. Kerry just threw out some of the numbers. 21-3, 1.77. Madison Bumgarner just went 18-10 with a 2.98. Not bad, but not Clayton Kershaw. But dare I suggest that Clayton Kershaw might be becoming the Peyton Manning of baseball, the greatest regular season pitcher ever, because so far, not so good in the postseason for Clayton Kershaw.
Got it.
Now, I don't have a big body of work, but so far, not so good, because he's 1-3 in his postseason starts with a 4.23 ERA. And remember last year against St. Louis? Do you remember Game 2? He pitched very well, but he lost the game, 1-0. And then in the crucial Game 6, this is now the money's on the table, and it's at Busch Stadium. But he gives up 10 hits and 7 earned runs.
Yep.
In 4 innings, and they lose the game 9-0, that's not an ace-like performance, obviously. So now let's look at the other guy, who's just been pretty good in the regular season.
Okay.
But in his postseason starts, he's 4-2 with a 3.02 ERA. But more important, at age 21, World Series Game 4. 2010 at Texas, a hitter's paradise. He goes 8 innings and gives up no runs and strikes out 6. Then World Series Game 2, 2012 against Detroit. This one at San Francisco. He goes 7 innings and gives up no runs and strikes out 8.
Okay.
And last night was just a flat-out masterpiece. That's on the road in the loudest park in baseball. And you don't think he turned down the sound? Pitch after pitch, the sound just went like this. Again, the grand slam really turned it down. But again, pitch after pitch, those poor Pittsburgh fans are just sitting back saying, we got no chance tonight. Complete game, 4-hit shutout. You strike out 10. That's some big-time stuff, and that is winner take all. Loser, go home. So, to me, Madison Bumgarner has already proven that he is made of tougher stuff in the postseason than Clayton Kershaw. Now, Kershaw's got he's got one tomorrow night, or it's actually tomorrow afternoon in the West against Wainwright. That will be a big one. We'll see how he fares in that one.
You know what? I need to let everybody know how brilliant you are. I need to put this for the record.
There's a big butt coming here.
Because Skip Bayless, you are the ultimate slickster. And I mean that complimentary.
Yeah, I don't
sitting
think
across
so.
from you. Oh, yes, it is. I'm giving you credit where credit is due. You think you're slick. Let me give a perfect
I don't think
example.
I'm slick.
You are slick.
I know I'm
slick. You are slick. At least that's why you're wearing black most of the time. Good for you. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Skip Bayless points out how Bumgarner pitches in the World Series against Detroit, pitches 7 innings, gives up just 2 hits, no runs, okay? They win that game. It's beautiful. I'm sorry, there were series that took place before that World Series.
There were?
That Skip Bayless actually left out.
Oh,
For example,
I said he was 4-2.
Hold on. Bumgarner, he started at 4-2. Here's what Skip did.
The other guy's 1-3.
Stay with me. Work with me here. Skip Bayless forgot that there was an NLDS series against Cincinnati where Bumgarner finished with an ERA of 8. Why? Because he pitched 4 1/3 and has gave up 4 runs and 7 hits. The next time we saw him was against St. Louis in the NLCS, the Conference Championship Series, the National League Championship Series. His ERA was 14.
Put that right here.
14, okay? Pitched 3 2/3 and has gave up 8 hits and 6 runs. You left that out. So when you talk,
I gave you his overall ERA, 3.02.
Like I said, slick.
I said
did
it.
not say
I wasn't
false.
trying to be slick. I was
say
trying to be
erroneous.
forthcoming.
I did not say erroneous. I said slick. So you pointed out the fact that you wanted to point out, but left that out. So you bring up the World Series game against Detroit, acting like, what did he look like before that particular game in the World World Series.
Now you're ignoring the glaring obvious of how great he was 3 times in the postseason.
I am telling you, I understand that Bumgarner can throw. But last night he was masterful. It was just a masterpiece, right? Set him up, kept throwing high, and just left the half bottom of the plate just wide open for him. He just abused them last night. His breaking ball was sensational. But here's the point that I'm trying to make to you. When you look at him and you look at Kershaw, I will acknowledge that Kershaw's got something to prove come playoff time, especially after his performance last year. I will give you that. But 21-3, 1.77 ERA. I'm worried about Kershaw too many innings. Pitched 198 innings this year, okay? But the point that I'm trying to make to you, his array of pitches is just masterful to watch. And his breaking ball is nothing short of sensational when it's on. Here's the thing. Posey's big time. And the reason why I bring up a catcher, because for folks out there that don't really know baseball, you got to understand that the game is called by the catcher. And the catcher and how he calls the game and what kind of pitches he gets you to throw plays a very significant role. Posey is big time. He's a future Hall of Famer, not just because of what he can do as a hitter, but it's how he calls the game, how he protects his pitches. Plus, he can throw you out. A.J. Ellis with the Dodgers, he can call a masterful game.
He's pretty good.
He just can't hit worth the damn.
Okay.
But he can bat 191. But he can call a game.
Okay.
And that's why him, and what I look at also, and that's why I'm saying don't underestimate it, because I would give you the edge with Bumgarner because he has Posey if Ellis didn't call a good game. But because Ellis is capable of calling a good game, I think that helps Kershaw. I don't think it's an accident that Greinke's ERA is under 2. I don't think it's an accident that Josh Beckett, who we thought was finished before he got hurt, was 6-6, but his ERA was under 3. I think all of those things you got to attribute to some degree to Ellis and how he impacts pitches. I'm telling you right now, when you look at Kershaw, he's got to get that proverbial monkey off his back in terms of how he performs in a postseason.
So you agree with me?
I'm saying to you, I think he has better stuff than Bumgarner. I think he has better stuff than him. So when you ask the question, if you're telling me that you're just going off of what we've seen from them in the postseason, I concede. You're right. Because Kershaw has to show that the person we see in the regular season, he can show in the postseason. But what I'm saying is, in terms of stuff, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, I don't think Bumgarner's stuff is better than Kershaw.
I'll buy that. I'll agree with you on that.
I don't think it's better than Kershaw.
21-3 says that pretty loudly.
Well, I'm just saying,
right?
you know.
21-3? Post?
Well, what I'm saying is, you're saying to me that psychologically, because of what Kershaw hasn't done in the postseason, is why you would go with Bumgarner.
Yes.
I'm just saying, don't tell me you're going to go with Bumgarner because you think he has better stuff than Kershaw. I don't believe that.
Okay, if you and I are managing one game for our lives against each other, if I got Bumgarner and you got Kershaw, I'm feeling real good about myself.
You are feeling real good about yourself based on history. I'm feeling good about myself based on this year.
You got St. Louis taking it all? Didn't you say that earlier?
I did.
Hey, he brought up Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Remember, Peyton Manning had the proverbial monkey on his back, and then he won that AFC Championship game, came back from, what is it, 21-point deficit against New England, won the AFC Championship game, and then beat Chicago in the Super Bowl. I'm saying moments around. Moments. Yeah. But I'm talking, you know, the Super Bowl was that AFC Championship game. I'm saying your moment, when you're that great, eventually your moment arrives. I believe Kershaw's moment will arrive now.
Got a quick turnaround here, really, diving into the Cincinnati preparations.
Bill, do you think, you mentioned Tom's age at the draft.
We're on to Cincinnati.
Do you think having a 37?
We're on to Cincinnati. It's nothing about the past, nothing about the future. It's right now we're preparing for Cincinnati.
Okay, do you feel like the talent you have here is good?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
Do you think you've done enough to help Tom?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati. That's what we're doing.
They're getting ready for Cincinnati, folks. According to Westgate Superbook, New England opened as 3-point favorites, but now Cincinnati is favored by a point to win the game in Foxborough. This on the heels of Brady saying that their offense can't operate at a high level, but he still has not lost any faith. Former Bengal wideout, since we're talking about Cincinnati, just apropos to have you here, TJ Houshmandzadeh. Welcome to First Take. How are you?
I'm good. How are you
This is
guys?
a welcome back to First
Oh,
Take. He was here once upon a time. He has
here?
done this show before.
He's old school.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And he was so good we had to retire him for a while. He took
It was
the
too
show.
much. You took over. We
Yeah.
want you here. Well, welcome back. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Big
Appreciate
fan
it.
of the show, from my understanding. Our producers say you love the show.
Yeah, I watch it a lot. Take my kids to school, come home and watch it.
All right, well, we appreciate
We like
that.
it.
Well, let's talk about this. You heard me say earlier that Westgate now has the Cincinnati Bengals favored now by a point. It opened at 3 for Patriots to win. Should they be favored, though?
I don't know if they should be favored. The Bengals are going to win the game, in my opinion. The way the Patriots just played, you're playing the Bengals team who's leading the NFL in points per game, giving up 11 defensively. And then offensively, you got Hugh Jackson now. I love Hugh Jackson. I think people know that. You look at Oakland since he left, and you look at Oakland when he was there.
Well, they were 8-8 when he was there.
Right. They've only won 8 games since he's been gone. Right. And so, offensively, he's going to get his guys the ball that deserve the ball. He's going to find mismatches, and he'll pick on that guy until the coach stops it. And the Bengals have playmakers all across the board. They got a running back that can run routes. They got receivers that can throw and catch. Their quarterback, Andy Dalton, might be the weakest link on the team, and he can really play. So if that's your weakest link, you got a strong team.
He can really play.
He can. With Hugh coaching him, Hugh is going to eliminate his weaknesses, or he's going to try to cover them up, so to speak. Coaching in the NFL goes a long way. It's not the NBA where you get a ball to LeBron and say win the game.
Right.
Get a ball to Kershaw and say pitch me a complete game.
You can't give the ball to LeBron and say win the game.
Yeah, you can.
You can?
No. Yeah, you can.
You can.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So,
Side
digress.
Note, we cannot apparently.
Coaching in the NFL goes a long way, and it's evident. And Hugh Jackson is that coach that he can mask some of Andy Dalton's deficiencies.
Okay, so you think they're going to win the game, so they should be favored.
Yeah, they should be. They should be favored. New England, they'll get back on track, just not this week.
Okay.
And by the way, are you speaking some with your heart? Some.
No. I'm speaking with my heart, but also with my mind as well. The Bengals are really good. I think the Bengals are the best team in the NFL.
All right, what's wrong with the Patriots then? What's your take?
They just don't have the playmakers. They need somebody on offense that can be that guy. You know, everybody said, oh, Tom Brady made Wes Welker, which he did, but you see Tom Brady needs Wes Welker now. He doesn't have a guy where he's comfortable with. You would think Gronk is that guy, but with him being injured so frequently, he needs to find a guy that he's comfortable and confident in.
All right, Stephen A.
2 points, Skip Bayless. TJ, one on the question, one ventures a little bit off because of things that I've said about Cincinnati previously. While he's here, he needs to know. One is that I'm inclined to disagree with you about the Sunday's game, but only because I feel like New England's desperate and it's in Foxborough. I know Cincinnati's a better team. I know they have better talent. I know that in all likelihood they'll make the playoffs. I get all of that. And I think that when you look at whether it's Giovanni Bernard, whether it's A.J. Green, whether it's Sanu, whether it's Gresham or Eifert or whomever the case may be, for Dalton to throw the ball to, he does appear to be a bit more disciplined. But this is Dalton during the regular season, and this is a regular season game. The playoffs are a different matter, so I don't blame you for picking them. I just think I'm inclined to lean towards New England simply because of their level of desperation. They're on their home turf, and the fact that they just got smacked around by Kansas City on Monday Night Football, and their flaws have just been so conspicuous. It's just too difficult to ignore. I think that sometimes it's like that rat trapped in the corner. You know, and what are you going to do under that particular situation?
I'm telling you, the Bengals are desperate, too. Like, I wish when me and Chad and Carson, if we had this defense that the Bengals have now, I'd have a Super Bowl ring. If we had this defense, the Bengals can really, they're desperate, too, because Marvin is preaching, they think we're going to come in here and lose. That's what he's preaching. Well, they're desperate as well.
You brought him up.
Uh-oh, here we go.
I wanted to sit there and say this right in front of you. You know, listen, I'm on the record. You know, I don't apologize for rooting for the success of black coaches because there's not too many of them. You understand? And Marvin Lewis is somebody that I would like to see win. My issue is that if it's Jason Garrett or somebody else, we are all over them. Marvin Lewis has been the head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals for 11 years and has never won a playoff game.
That's going to change.
To me, he is lucky to have the head coaching job in Cincinnati. I know he's head coaching material. I know he knows football. I know he can coach. I'm not questioning that. I'm saying in Cincinnati. I'm only speaking about in Cincinnati. There should have been a new voice up in that piece this year. Do you have a problem with me saying that based on that fact? 11 years, 0 playoff victories.
I would say your point is fair. That's a fair point. But you got to understand, when Marvin got to Cincinnati, the situation that he inherited.
Stop.
And it's a long time ago. But you got to understand it. When I got to Cincinnati, all the receivers were young. We kind of taught ourselves. You look at the situation now with A.J. Green. He came in, he had no veteran presence. The thing with the Bengals that they need to correct, they need to have some vets kind of teach the young guys. We learned on our own. A.J. Green, he's learning on his own. And as a player, sometimes you need another player to teach you. Marvin can only do so much as a coach. You only can do so much. If you got players, you're going to win if you put them in good positions. They'll win a playoff game this year, and you have to go to another point. They might not win a Super Bowl.
I hope I can. Listen, I won't even make the point if they win a playoff game.
They'll win one.
But how are you? Go ahead, Skip. I just don't understand how everybody can sit there and say, he walked into it. It's 11 years ago.
Okay. Would you rather? How many years in a row have they been to the playoffs? Is it 3? 3 years in a row?
No.
You'd rather go to the playoffs than not go. So he's making progress. He's making progress.
Really?
He's making progress.
Really said that with a straight face.
He's making progress.
Okay, go ahead, Skip.
He's very fortunate to still have the opportunity to win a playoff
That's
game.
all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the point is fair.
All right.
The point is fair.
Stop right there then. Stop right there, TJ.
Back to the point spread on this game.
Yes.
If I were a betting man, and I am not, first of all, I can't remember in my time of analyzing point spreads a swing quite like this one.
Yep.
Because Tom Brady did not get hurt. He's still, as far as I know, he's still okay. Maybe not psychologically, but his body, I think he's still okay, even though he got roughed up a little bit in Kansas City. And this went from New England favored by 3 at home to all of a sudden New England is a 1-point underdog in a night game in Foxborough, the Sunday night game. Tribute to your guys from Cincinnati. I get all that. And Cincinnati did beat this team last year in the rain. It was a driving rain in Cincinnati. And it was 13-6 Bengals. But I'm going to look, the overreaction, the knee-jerk overreaction to 41-14 the other night makes me smile because it's only advantage Patriots. And I am totally with Stephen A. Smith because this is a proud bunch. And it's more talented on defense than anybody is giving it credit for. And on offense, I'm going to remind you, last year with this same group, with some additions to this group, it scored the 3rd most points in the league. And people say, oh, Belichick let down Tom Brady. He didn't give him enough help. Well, it's the same group he had last year when he didn't really have Gronkowski very much. They scored the 3rd most points in the league, and he did go get a Brandon LaFell. Now, again, is he a TJ or a Chad in Cincinnati? No, he's not, but he's pretty good. And Tom Brady loved Brandon LaFell in camp. And they got 2 kid receivers from last year who are both pretty good because they both have some deep speed. And the Boston Globe reported last night that Aaron Dobson has been in the doghouse. That's why he was a healthy scratch the other day because he yelled back at Josh McDaniels. Okay, so that's one explanation. Kenbrell Tompkins, he must also be in the doghouse of somebody. Tom Brady's doghouse, because he was a healthy and active.
This ain't the time for all of that.
Yeah, hello. I'm thinking.
Okay, well, maybe it's not because maybe both of them will be healthy and active on Sunday night, and maybe they'll be big parts of the offense.
Man, the Bengals are loaded in the secondary, man. First-round pick after first-round.
Okay.
Their whole secondary is first-round picks.
Well, you want to know who else is loaded in the secondary who might, by the end of the year, have as good a secondary as Seattle? That is New England secondary. Brandon Browner is back this week from his PED suspension. And Darrelle Revis, he's still pretty good. The last time I looked, and I thought their secondary was pretty good last year. Remember, this defense, without Wilfork, without Mayo, and obviously without Revis last year, still got this team all the way to the AFC Championship game? Okay. Are you kidding me? And Wilfork and Mayo are back, and Revis is there? Look, there are, you know this. There are aberration, outlier sort of games that happen every 2 or 3 weeks in this league, where you look at it and you say, what was that? Because you can't even explain it. I can't explain what happened Monday night in that outdoor decibel chamber that is Arrowhead, because they set the record again. Yeah. Okay? New England was not ready to play, right?
You've made some great points.
Okay. And then my final point, Stephen A., what is the Greg Popovich quote about? You must play with appropriate fear. Yes. I don't think New England went into the Kansas City game on Monday night with appropriate fear. And by the way, the San Antonio and New England organizations modeled themselves after each other, study each other.
When you use the phrase appropriate fear, what you're basically saying is respect the opponent.
Yeah.
Understand that if you don't bring your A game, you can get bounced out of here.
Like big bounced out, yeah.
And that's what you have to respect that. And when you don't have that appropriate level of fear, you usually fall. And that's really what this comes down to. I look at Cincinnati, I look at a team that's supremely and incredibly confident defensively, as well they should be. The problem is they usually end up the ones being kicking the barricades and the gates, walking off the field frustrated because they did their job.
Right.
But they didn't count on others not doing their job. And usually when you have that, that's a problem because you're thinking that it's all about you until you find out that it's not.
TJ, one moment before you respond. Skip, you said you read in the Boston Globe that Aaron Dobson is in the doghouse. Stephen A., you said this isn't the time for that.
This is not the time for that.
Well, I mean, obviously it's not.
It's 16
well, I hope
games.
The doghouse is open now.
Games.
I hope.
Listen. There are 6, unless you got a Thursday game, most often than not, there are 6 days between a game, from one game to another. This is to, torture them. Make sure you don't, make them run a little extra suicide.
Right.
Okay.
Don't feed them.
Don't feed them.
You know what I'm saying? Make them have a curfew. There's a lot of ways to get guys rather than mess with them by benching them on games.
I agree
How does that help Tom Brady?
I agree with that.
How does that help Tom Brady?
I don't get it.
The Patriots will be on track, just not this week.
Okay.
Tom Cutinella, a player for Shoreham Wading River High School, died Wednesday night at a hospital after suffering a head injury during a game with John Glenn High School in Elwood, New York. He's the 3rd high school football player to die on the field over the last week. TJ, back at the desk with us. You're on the coaching staff at a well-known high school football program, Long Beach Poly. We talked about this in the morning meeting, and you had some incredible insight on what's actually happening with these kids as a former player and obviously as a high school coach. How do you believe, especially with these 3 incidents of death on the high school football field, how will this impact the future of football?
It's hard to say because football is so popular. These kids want to play it, and it's fun. But something's going to have to be done because you had these kids that, if you got kids dying in high school football, as a parent, and I finally do have a son, it's almost 7 months. And it's, do you let him play football? If he wants to, I'll let him, but it makes me nervous as a parent when you see this. It really does. And the testing they do in high school, go take a physical, you're cleared. The testing needs to be a little more thorough. Take an EKG test. Spend a little more money just for the safety and the welfare of these kids because where I coach, we have some really good players. And guys you have your best players, they play kickoff because you don't want to give up a big play. Oh, they just run down there and just knock guys out. And in the process, they knock themselves out. And I tell them constantly, listen, guys, you only got so many hits in your body. You got to be smart about this. And it's alarming, it's troubling that kids are dying in high school. And you don't want it to happen, but it's going to happen. They just have to limit it. It's scary. It's very, very scary.
So how does that impact the future of football, professional football?
I don't think it does because it's so popular. Kids want to play football. That's all they see on TV. They want to play football. It's very popular. Now, eventually, if this continues to happen at a higher rate, it will impact it for sure because the parents are going to say, oh, it's not going to be my kid. I don't think it's going to be me. I don't think it's going to be my kid. And I think that's what everybody thinks until it is you or it is your child. And so I don't think it will affect it unless it continues to happen at a rapid pace.
All right. Stephen A.
Bad news for a lot of folks in this country out there who believe that so much onus falls on the NFL. This particular incident, as tragic as it is, and our hearts go out to the family of those kids to lose a child in high school playing football. So obviously you believe they're healthy enough and what have you. It's just a shock. One day they're gone. It's devastating. My heart goes out to those families, but we need to understand something. From a business perspective, the business of the National Football League, this is something that's going to actually, and I don't want to sit there and imply that the death of somebody is working to the benefit of the NFL, but in essence, it very well might. I don't think it's going to detrimentally impact the sport of football at all unless kids actually stop playing, and I don't see that happening. Why? Because the sport is the most popular sport in America. It's a multi-billion-dollar establishment. There are riches that come along with playing in the game, and there are a lot of people in this world that are willing to take that risk because of the reward. They're looking at their lives and they're saying, what kind of life am I going to have if I'm not playing this sport? Hell, I'm going to go for it, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen, so they're going to continue to play. But the biggest point that I'm making as to why all of this news is negative and as devastating as it is, and I'm certainly not accusing the NFL nor any human being for liking this. Nobody wants children to ultimately die from playing this sport. The fact that you pointed out how concussions take place on a high school level and how guys are just willing to hit one another and crash their bodies into folks and they're disoriented and stuff like that. Well, the more evidence that mounts as to something taking place before they ever reach the NFL level, the less of an onus it is on the National Football League in terms of these lawsuits that have been levied against them, because people are saying, well, you know what, I'm concussed, I've had this stuff from playing in the NFL. Well, how do you know it was from you playing in the NFL? How do you know it wasn't from you playing in college? How do you know it wasn't from you playing in high school? The fact that more of these cases are propping up actually buffers the argument of the National Football League that says it's not us. We're not necessarily responsible, and therefore the NFL is not going to be detrimentally affected.
Interesting. I will point out, I have read stats that over the last 4 or 5 years in youth football, participation has dropped fairly significantly, because I just know there are a lot of parents in this country who are saying, no, I won't let you. Now, maybe they would reconsider once they become 14, 15, 16. I'm talking about that Pop Warner level.
Right.
But what comes clear to me is that now that we're putting so many high school games on television, because Poly's on TV, they've had some big TV games. I've watched them over the last few years. Mm-hmm. There's more and more emphasis on high school football. You can't tell me that there are some people not walking around in this country who only played in high school that aren't suffering from some of the same brain damage that the pro players are suffering. Are you right? Am I right about that?
I would agree with that.
Okay. College, obviously, SEC football, even Pac-12, whatever, you're going to have concussions, man. And even if you don't make it to pro football, you might be brain damaged. So, Stephen A., you're a boxing fan. What happened to the heavyweight division in the sport of boxing? For years, kids watched what happened to the greatest, Ali. What does his physical condition look like? Whether it was caused by boxing or not, it does give you pause. And a lot of kids said, wow, that's such a quick path to fame and fortune, but I could be a vegetable.
Well, I don't know about that, because if you speak to Dan Rayfield and Teddy Atlas and boxing analysts, they'll tell you the sport is as popular as ever internationally. It's just not as much nationwide because it's not covered on television. But they don't tell you that the number of boxers that are out there have dissipated. You still got a lot of guys that are trying to fight. That's what they say. I'm just telling you what they say.
Because when I was a kid, a lot of kids wanted to be Muhammad Ali or Joe Frazier, and I don't think that many kids over the last 20 or 30 years.
I don't know if we know that. Back then, man, we had the great Howard Cosell with the Wide World of Sports, and boxing was publicized on network television on a Saturday afternoon. Now the only time you get to really watch boxing, unless you watch Friday Night Fights here on this channel or the occasional boxing matches on Showtime or HBO, really the marquee matches are on pay-per-view. Yeah. And so because of that, you don't see it, but they're saying they still exist.
Okay, so the upshot of these tragedies is more and more, I think even high school players are going to be more aware of the risk. Because you played just, I think, 1 year of high school football, but you weren't thinking about concussions. I mean, it'd be the last thing in your head. Now kids today, thanks to you at Poly, they're starting to think about it and have some awareness of the dangers, right?
Yeah.
Even though they might not take it to heart just yet, but maybe they will.
And you tell it.
What do you tell them, TJ? Because you shared something with us.
We got a kid there, and he's a corner. I'm not even going to say his name for the sake of...
Yep, but he's a really good player.
He's a really good player, and he's pretty much my size in high school. And he's on a kickoff team, and he just runs. I'm talking about he destroys guys. I'm talking runs a piece of paper, get out my way.
Yeah.
I'm killing the ball carrier all the time. And you got to stop doing this. He didn't play last week because he had a concussion 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
He didn't play.
The other thing.
And I tell him, you only have so many hits. You have to stop. You have to stop.
Are your doctors good about the protocol? Do you have that high school protocol that they have in college?
We're very aware of it. If a guy has a concussion, I would rather hold him out than have him play just to be safe. You have to.
Also, a couple of things to consider. Number one, record-breaking heat this summer. Some of these coaches got to exercise common sense instead of working guys because, again, if you dehydrated, that affects you upstairs as well to some degree. And as it pertains to the NFL, because of the CBA, they have cut back on OTAs and stuff like that. So
it's a different ball game. This concussion is scary because you can't see it.
Yeah.
You can't see it. I was knocked out cold in the game, sleep on my helmet, sleep, and I was ready to go back in after I came. They didn't let me, but I played the next week, and I was completely knocked out asleep.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
The Boston Red Sox have won the World Series.
The new college football playoff.
The Seminoles have completed the perfect season.
Your home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
After the latest off-the-field incident with Jameis Winston, Mel Kiper Jr. dropped Heisman winner Jameis Winston to last on his big board. Kiper has released his latest big board, and Winston has now, as you can see, jumped 9 spots to 16. Winston was 26 of 38 for 365 yards and 4 touchdowns in a come-from-behind win over North Carolina State. Mel Kiper, our friend, now joins the desk to explain. Mel, why the big jump for Winston?
Look, I didn't want to have a big gap between Bryce Petty and Jameis Winston, provided there were no off-the-field issues this past week, and there weren't. So every week there's not an issue. I may move him up 1 spot now, maybe not as many as I did this past week, and maybe he climbs back up into the top 5. But on performance, I was impressed from maybe the end of the first quarter on. That 1 touchdown pass could have been picked. So his performance was a little spotty. Did get hot at the right time. Was great on 3rd down. So if he builds on that, I want to watch him against Notre Dame coming up. Down the road against a cornerback, Cody Riggs, who can pick your pocket, against a defensive line who can get after you, and a lot of speed at linebacker. So against that very formidable Notre Dame defense, I want to see how Jameis plays in that game. If he plays well, he may move up a few spots after that game against the Fighting Irish. We'll see.
Mel Kiper, educate me. Stephen A. Smith here. Educate me about this. Excuse me if it sounds like a silly question, but your big board, what does it mean? What are you trying to say with Jameis Winston being at 16? What does number 16 for Jameis Winston, what should it mean to us according to what Mel Kiper is telling us?
It's based on just the rating of a player. Who do I see right now when you take in everything? Every heavyweight players in totality, Stephen A., everything, including the off-the-field issues. Who are the best football players right now, today? And I put him where I did because I could not move him and keep him at 25 or off the board because those guys just aren't better. When you factor in the off-the-field issues, that puts him at 16. He really should be at number 1 or number 2 based on ability. That's not the case. So if he takes care of business on and off the field, he can climb up. So there's a long way between now and late April. There's been nothing, no issues, nothing happens away from football, and he's really nailing it on the field and doing a great job, as he will, as he should. Then all of a sudden he's up there challenging Marcus Mariota again. Whether he'll overtake Mariota, very debatable, but he can certainly climb up. Another issue, and he's not off the board. He's maybe out of the first couple rounds.
So, Mel, as I recall, when you dropped Jameis a couple of weeks back, it was strictly because of off-field. I think you said he's totaled, 5 off-field incidents in his time at Florida State. And you even suggested that he was close to dropping out of your first round. So have you heard anything that has improved your view of him off the field over the last week or so?
Skip, it was 6 issues that I counted.
6
and I think
issues,
when you look at 6, and I think when you look at right now where he is in terms of his performance, and you look at the guys in front of him, I couldn't keep him there because he's just flat out better, and he's a quarterback. How far do you rise him up the board from now on, knowing there were 6 issues? That's maybe 1 spot for every week, 2 weeks that he's playing well and there's no problem. Maybe you go that way, maybe 1 or 2 spots for every 3 to 4 weeks. However, I want to try to figure this out. It's going to be kind of a puzzle you got to put together. Hopefully, and we shouldn't even be discussing this, he should be at 1 or 2. And it's because of what he's done away from football. It is where he is right now in terms of all these question marks, even in terms of NFL GMs in their eyes and the way they evaluate. So it's the fortunate thing for Jameis, there's a long time between now and late April. There's certainly an opportunity for him maybe to go back to Florida State for another year if he needs to, and I think he could. The problem with that is he loses his offensive line, he loses Rashad Green and Nick O'Leary, and then Carlos Williams. Do you really want to go back with all those guys around you moving on? Probably not. So I would say between now and late April, no more SportsCenter leads with Jameis Winston, except for the great performances he's going to have on the field.
Mariota, number 1 on your list. Without any off-the-field incidences, is Jameis Winston above him, or would, even at this juncture, based on what you've seen this season thus far, would Mariota have been placed above him?
Stephen A., I was looking forward back in July, August to see who was going to win out with these two. It was kind of a 2-horse race. Who's going to win out? It's going to be neck and neck. It's going to be affirmed and Alydar all the way up till the end. I thought that could happen. Right now, it's not happening because of Jameis's issue off the field and adding to the list that we had. Can he climb back up and make it a 2-horse race? Possibly. But there's always going to be that lingering doubt as to when you're doing this stuff, when you're trying to get your resume in order to be a number 1 pick overall, what's going to happen when you get that big contract with all that guaranteed money? That's the question. I've had it about players in the past when they were going through this process of leading up to the draft, going through the draft process. If you can't nail that on and off the field, especially off the field, what's going to happen when you are now the CEO of this football team, when you are the face of the organization and you're guaranteed all that big money? That's going to be that lingering doubt that's always going to be there because of these issues that we've chronicled leading up to this point.
Mel, would you believe I covered all 3 Triple Crown races between Affirmed and Alydar? And I even covered the Travers between Affirmed and Alydar. And Jameis is affirmed if he can keep himself straight off the field. He's the better of those 2 horses. So let me change the subject quickly here, Mel. I go down to number 9, Todd Gurley. There were years past, speaking of doing something for a long time, when running backs were more valued in this league, as you know. Todd Gurley is a special football player. When he returned that kickoff 100 yards against Clemson at, what is he, 6'1", 225, I just said, wow. There were times in the past when he would have been near the top of your board. Obviously, he's had some durability issues because he plays hell-bent every play. But do you think that's where he'll go, is in that 9-10-ish range?
Now, that's not a mock draft, Skip.
Yeah,
that is strictly a rating. Now, where will he go? I've de-emphasized running backs for 35 years because I always saw those mid to late rounders or second, third rounders that weren't first but developed into great players at running back. So you give them the ball, you let them go. They're great early. A tread on the tires is always an issue. But certainly now, more than ever, would you really want to take a running back in the first round? I wouldn't have then, certainly would now, but you say, well, why are they rated that high? They're rated that high because they're great football players and they deserve to be rated that high. You don't rate a player based on philosophy. You rate them based on ability. Myself, I wouldn't take a running back in round 1. I wouldn't have taken Adrian Peterson in round 1. Wow. I wouldn't take a running back in round 1. I don't care how good they are. I don't need to take a running back in round 1. In this league now, I don't need it. You can find running backs at any point in the draft. That's the case for the last 35 years, probably even later than that, going back even further. But I think when you look at Gurley's there because he is a great running back. Yeah. Now, we thought Trent Richardson would be a great running back. He's not there yet. So at the end of the day, maybe Trent Richardson in that situation hurts Gurley a little bit. Melvin Gordon III, MG3 at Wisconsin's a heck of a player as well. But we'll have to wait and see. I think Gurley could end up, after all said and done, somewhere in the top 10 to 15. Probably not in the top 5 because teams are not going to put that kind of value right now on a running back.
What about a wide receiver? You got Amari Cooper out of Alabama at number 3. He's got 43 receptions, 655 yards, 5 touchdowns. We've seen how mercurial he can be. What about a wide receiver? What about him?
Stephen A., he's special. I mean, when you look at what he does on the field in terms of the precise route running, the way he attacks the football, his ability after the catch, his ability to step up in key situations. He went up against Vernon Hargraves, a sophomore, who's an elite corner, and he had 10 catches for 201 yards. You think about his character, his ability off the field, do everything he can to maximize that ability. Worked all summer on route running. He's got that Jerry Rice work ethic. That's phenomenal. When you get a great player and a great character, great work ethic, put it all together, that's why he's number 3 on the big board. And he's going to go very, very high come late April. Is he going to go number 1? Probably not. But he's certainly an elite receiver. He's going to be rated like Julio Jones and A.J. Green were a few years ago.
The Dallas Cowboys are off to the first 3-1 start under Jason Garrett as their head coach. They're tied at the top of the NFC East. Jerry Jones went on his weekly radio show and said these boys remind him of the glory days in some ways. Cowboys' next 5 games, let's take a look, are home against the Texans, at Seattle, then home against the Giants, Redskins, and the Cardinals. That is the schedule. So we will talk about that division, shall we? TJ's back with us, and I need you to answer this question with authority. You can't be on the fence. Will the Cowboys win the division?
I won't try to hedge my bet. Yeah, I would pick the Cowboys to win the division. Start this off. I'm a fan of Tony Romo. Okay. I will say that.
Why is that?
As a receiver, I wouldn't mind Tony Romo throwing me the ball. Oh. I really wouldn't. I really wouldn't. Because I'm a receiver that's, when I played, I was off of timing and doing things the exact way that the coach wants it, and he seems like if you're a timing receiver, he's going to get you the ball. And so I'm a fan of Tony Romo, I will say that. But the Dallas Cowboys, they have what the majority of teams in the NFL want, a great offensive line. That's what they've invested first-round picks in offensive lines in the past few years, and now it's starting to pay dividends. It's starting to pay off. They went from last year averaging 120 yards rushing per game to, let me find this here, to now they're averaging 168 yards per game. That's a huge jump per game. Huge. And so they're able to run the ball. You know they can throw the ball. They got one of the best tight ends in the game. They got one of the best receivers in Dez Bryant. And so
as long Terrence Williams, not bad.
He's not a factor this early in the season, but he will be a factor. But as long as they can run the ball and they have an offensive line, so they will, I would pick them to win the division.
Can you wait a minute? So somebody sitting at this desk said before the season started, the Dallas Cowboys would win this division.
Who said that?
And it was like shockwaves. It was the most outrageous thing.
Someone
and now
fell down.
A very smart man who really knows his football, who's now coaching and teaching high school football, TJ Houshmandzadeh, just sat here and said the Dallas Cowboys will win the NFC
and he's
East
a very smart
because Tony Romo is. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
They pick on Romo, man. He's not as bad as people make it seem, man. He really isn't.
Oh, all right. Stephen
so
A.
that leaves us with what? Stephen A. Smith.
He's sleeping.
Yeah.
Oh, is it my turn? Is it my turn?
Yeah.
You know, listen, man. It's the Dallas Cowboys, man. You know, listen. I'm sorry. Was Tony Romo there last year? Yes or no?
If I recall correctly, yes.
Was he the year before?
Well, he did get hurt
Yeah,
before the last game.
I'm not
before
talking
the last
to you.
game.
I'm talking to him. TJ Houshmandzadeh, our guest on the show. Was Tony Romo there last year?
The answer to that is no.
Was he there the year before? Yes or no?
But
No.
Yes,
I'm getting to
yes, let me
was he
answer
there the year before that? Yes or no?
Yes.
Was he there the year before that? Yes or no?
Yes.
4 straight years the Dallas Cowboys have been out of the playoffs. Last couple of years, was Dez Bryant there? I believe he was. Was Terrence Williams there? I believe he was. Was Jason Witten there? I believe he was. Was DeMarco Murray there? I believe he was. Let me tell you something. I love the offensive line. It's big time. I understand that. But did you notice that DeMarco Murray has run the ball 99 times already?
Oh,
He's on pace to run 400 times this year. It won't happen. They'll have to cut back. You and I both know that. When they cut back, that means that it'll be required upon Tony Romo to throw the ball more. Because I don't think that Dunbar Randall's going to be running the ball that much.
Why not?
I just don't think so. I could be shocked because they've shocked me already with Linehan and those boys giving DeMarco Murray the ball because that's what I've been saying. No one, and see, this is how the problem. You watch the show, you get caught up in the sauce, listening to Skip. Let me tell you something right now. Nobody is questioning the talent that the Dallas Cowboys have. What we're saying is they are about hype. They are about money. They are about popularity, and at some point in time, it will make them stupid. Not because Linehan's stupid, not because Callahan's stupid, not because Rod Marinelli is stupid on the defensive side of the ball because we know he's not. None of that. It is because Jerry Jones will somehow infiltrate the proceedings. He will get in the way of success. And the accident waiting to happen, that is the Dallas Cowboys, will show up on cue, and they will show you that, you know what, as things change, they always remain the same.
Who's our biggest competition?
That's
the Eagles?
Eagles.
It's the Eagles, right?
Eagles.
So the Eagles go from averaging 198 yards per game.
They've had problems on the offensive line, no doubt.
Or is it that Deshaun Jackson is no longer there to keep the safety out the box?
Excuse me. You can say that. You can say that. I don't believe that. I believe the acquisition of Darren Sproles, coupled with Shady McCoy being what he's capable of being, and I think Macklin being back in the lineup after being gone last year, I think offsets Deshaun Jackson being gone.
Darren Sproles, you got to understand football here. Darren Sproles is a running back. When you have a receiver that can blow the top off the coverage on the outside, a safety has to respect that. Whereas Darren Sproles, he's going to come. Do that? Not like Deshaun Jackson can.
Well, I'm just saying. I understand that, but can Macklin do that? Yes or no?
He can do it, but not like Deshaun Jackson.
I don't
you don't go from 198 yards through 4 games last year to 87 yards per game this year. It's not all on the offensive line.
I'm not saying it's all on the offensive line.
100+ yards.
I'm simply saying that to some degree that's had something to do with how Shady McCoy has gotten
Of course.
I'm saying you could dip and dunk it to a Darren Sproles who could be formidable, and I do understand what you're saying about that safety, which is going to be incumbent upon Macklin and a Riley Cooper who doesn't have that ability, obviously, to do something about it. But in the end, when you look at the weapons that the Philadelphia Eagles have, I'm not telling you that the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl because I don't think they're good enough. But it doesn't take an Einstein to recognize that you don't need all of that to win the NFC East. I mean, are you kidding me? It's the NFC East. It ain't the NFC. It ain't the NFC West.
I'm telling you, the Cowboys, they have it. They have that offense. When you have that offensive line, you always have games are won and lost. You know, Romo's going to get the credit or the blame. But games are won and lost up front.
I will tell you right now, he can come and sub for me. He can sub for me, y'all.
Yeah, because you don't want
the Dallas Cowboys win the NFC East and Cincinnati ends up, and I think Cincinnati's going to end up being formidable. Look, I'm telling you right now, if the way he sounds, it might be Cincinnati and Dallas in the Super Bowl.
I wouldn't take it that far.
I'm telling you right now, I'm not showing up. I'm not showing up.
Also, you want a day off.
You need a day. He don't want to deal with you.
Super Bowl week.
You're not showing up?
If the Dallas Cowboys ended up doing something as crazy as going to the Super Bowl, I would ask for an unpaid vacation. I'd take the week off.
I'm telling you right now, I couldn't take it. The next 5 games, you will get a real good feel of how good Dallas is.
Oh, how? They got 4 the next 5 at home.
Thank you.
But look, who are they playing?
Only Seattle. You got Seattle.
That's going to be a good test. That's going to be a good barometer to see where they're at.
They're going to get eaten up. At Seattle? Seattle? That's going to be fun to watch. That's going to be fun to watch.
If you can run the ball,
that's the schedule, guys.
You have to keep them honest. That will be a good barometer, a good test for them.
Okay.
The Dallas Cowboys will win 4 of the next 5 games. Now, CJ, I must apologize for the silver-tongued devil that sits across from me because he slickly omitted a key detail about last year.
Oh, now he's accusing me of that.
Yeah. The Dallas Cowboys last year, as mediocre as they were, what is your thing about they are walking pieces of mediocrity?
That's right.
Those walking.
I'm aware that Tony Romo wasn't there for the last game.
He was not there for the last game.
The previous 2 years
By the way, they went into the last game 5-0 within the NFC East. That's pretty good.
Yes.
And with the backup quarterback, Kyle Orton, who's now starting quarterback somehow in Buffalo, but with the backup quarterback thrown into the game against Philly in Jerry World, they hung right in there and barely lost the game on a late Kyle Orton interception. So they were in the ballpark of going 6-0 in the division. That's pretty good. You have to accept that those were building blocks because
you think Dallas is going to go 6-0 this year?
I think they got a shot in the division. You know why? Because they match up well with these teams. They match up well with the Eagles. I don't know exactly why, but they went into Philly when Chip Kelly was starting to fly high, fly like an eagle, and they beat them 17-3 in Philly last year. So I look at this one. Philly has to play at Dallas on Thanksgiving. That's a tough test, man, for Philly.
Going to win that game.
Okay. All right, but then we go to December 14th. That could be a crucial NFC East because it's in Philly, Dallas at Philly. That could be for some marbles.
Is it bad that we're not even talking about Washington or Giants?
No.
Is that
we
bad?
should talk about the Giants.
They're respectable.
Why?
Not Washington. Not Washington.
You think we should talk about Washington?
Who's the Giants quarterback?
Eli Manning.
Is he better than Tony Romo?
I'm sorry. He's got 2 Super Bowl rings.
Man, that team. You better look at that team. That
look
pass
at
rush.
who's talking.
I'm
You
just
got the
keeping it real.
You're the guy that just finished raving about Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton who hasn't won a playoff game, and you're going to disrespect Eli Manning?
Football's the ultimate team game.
Oh, really? So how come we can't talk about the Giants?
It's ultimate team
game. We
game.
brought up the Giants. We said we were willing to talk about the Giants. You said who's their quarterback. Right. Now I bring up the quarterback.
Right.
You say it's a team.
Which one is it?
Make your argument. How you going to say that? You're going to rave about Dalton and Romo for disrespect Eli Manning?
If Eli,
really?
If his last name wasn't Manning, would he still be starting?
You know what? You could sit there and say that over the last 2 weeks. Over the last 2 weeks, I'd say yes. Now, the first 2 weeks, I'd say hell no. But my point to you is this. Who are you to talk? You brought up Dalton and Romo. Romo should have been benched years ago. If that's the case, Dalton should be allergic to football after Christmas.
Romo doesn't have the defense that Eli had when they were, man, you got Strahan, Tuck, you're all them boys up front. That's why they won them Super Bowls.
I'm saying to you, you can say whatever you want. Eli Manning did something along the way. He was balling.
David Tyree caught the ball off his helmet. Manny Ham made a great catch.
That's all you've shown is that you watch Skip.
No, I pay attention to football.
That's all you show. Listen, I remember Eli Manning. Did Eli Manning not go into San Francisco and win an NFC Championship game? Did he not agree
against Alex Smith?
Atlanta in the postseason en route to it? Did he not go to Green Bay and win there? Does he not have 2 Super Bowl rings? You gonna sit up here next to me on this show and argue with me about Romo and Dalton and then bring up Eli Manning and disrespectful message? What is wrong with you?
No.
Now, if you said Peyton, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, I got you.
Those guys are the Mount Rushmore right now.
Tony Romo, Dalton.
Whoa, hold on.
What?
Just compare.
Wait, are we talking about the same Eli Manning who has led the NFL in interceptions three times? Three times? Case closed. It's over.
We're also talking about an Eli Manning that has missed the playoffs for the last 5 years, throwing all those negatives. He's still got 2 Super Bowl rings. What do you have? Dalton and Romo.
I mean, I'm right with him. I don't have anything myself.
No, I'm talking about you.
But I'm saying you got to look at that defensive line that he had when they were winning them Super Bowls. Them boys were getting after the quarterback.
Listen, on this show, you don't get to sit there and slip through the. You brought up the Cincinnati Bengals defense, did you not?
Yes, sir.
It didn't stop you from praising Dalton. You brought up all the stuff, the Dallas Cowboys offensive line. You brought up their improved defense. You brought up their running game, but it didn't stop you from praising Romo. But all of a sudden, I bring up Eli Manning. You want to ignore it. You want to bring up everything else and ignore him.
If I'm not mistaken, Eli was drafted in 2004, so this is his 11th season coming up.
2 Super Bowl championships.
Okay. Andy Dalton was drafted in 2010?
Right.
10.
Right.
So he has time.
No. I'm not saying Andy Dalton's a finish. Hold it. Don't change my argument. You ain't Skip Bayless. Well, I'm going to call you Skip Houshmandzadeh. Listen up. I'm not trying to sit there and say that. I am not saying that Andy Dalton is a finished product. I am not saying he can't play. I know he can play. I know he's got skills. I know he's got time. I'm telling you that thus far, the brother's allergic to winning in the postseason.
Throwing long left side. Got TJ out there. Touchdown, TJ Houshmandzadeh. Quick hit to TJ. Got TJ inside the 5. Touchdown, Houshmandzadeh. Touchdown, Houshmandzadeh. Looking, throwing. He's in the end zone. TJ Houshmandzadeh. Touchdown. Throwing end zone. TJ went up in traffic, brought it down. TJ. He got it to TJ Houshmandzadeh. Touchdown, Cincinnati.
I can't say his last name like that. Houshmandzadeh. Anyway.
Hey, you were killing those Eagles.
Yeah,
I like that.
You got it. TJ back, hanging out with us. You mentioned earlier today, Skip isn't he something? You said you're a huge fan of the show. On the phone with one of our producers, from my understanding, they gave you a list of topics. You said you wanted to talk about one in particular because you felt like it was pretty interesting when you watch it on the show. So set us up. Tell us what you're doing.
Okay, so last segment I was Skip Houshmandzadeh, so I guess that will change now because the Mayweather-Pacquiao thing, I'm a huge boxing fan. I love boxing. I watch all types of boxing. I'm going home to watch the fight I tebow last night. That was on ESPN. Curtis Stevens and Hassan, I can't even say his last name. Anyway, there's no way you honestly believe that Mayweather is scared of Pacquiao. No way.
I do.
No way.
I honestly believe that. No, you can disagree whether he is or not, but I do honestly believe that.
And
He's scared to death of
Do you
which
really
is why I don't think they'll ever fight.
If they fought, that Pacquiao would win?
Absolutely.
You say you're not a bad man, we got to figure out something with that. It don't have to be monetary. It can be something else.
Okay.
Anything.
I'll restate my position just for his edification over here because he still hasn't learned.
Mayweather will destroy Pacquiao.
We'll give him a boxing lesson.
Listen, he is afraid of this man because this man has power attached to quickness, which is attached to high boxing IQ, which is attached to a warrior's heart, which we have not seen for a couple of years because Manny's just he's just dog paddling.
He don't have Alex Ariza.
Tell the real reason why we didn't see it for the last couple of years.
He's waiting for this fight because he hasn't taken any fight.
Because he's still waking up. That's why.
Hey,
Tell the real reason why
I thought
we
he was
haven't
awake
seen
in
it
his
in a while.
last fight.
Please.
You know what they say? Face, back, and butt. I'm falling and I can't get up.
Oh, boy. You saw that on Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
And you know what? Floyd Mayweather Jr. knows he would not only get hit in this fight, he would get cut in this
Everybody
fight
gets
because
hit.
Manny can punch, and Manny has not taken any fight seriously for really about 5 years. He's waiting and waiting. He is daring this man. He is openly daring him. Let's fight tomorrow.
Why doesn't he agree to Floyd's financial terms then?
He agreed.
No,
we heard all kinds of terms.
My thing is this: when we first started talking about Mayweather Pacquiao, anybody that's an athlete, any athlete, when they tell you to take a test and you say no, that's all I need to know. Oh, I'm scared of needles, but you got more tattoos than I have.
Okay, but he backed off. He said, I'll take a needle
right
test
away.
on fight
Once
day.
you say no right out the gate, that gives me reason to pause. Like, why don't you want to take a test, bro?
Because he didn't want his blood drawn on fight day because he thought it would decrease his strength.
Gentlemen, hold on.
Well, okay. Okay, so are you accusing him like Floyd is?
I'm not accusing him. I'm just saying
think
I'm an
you
athlete.
are.
Any
You are
athlete,
inferring.
when you hear that, it makes you say,
why not?
Why not? Dude, what's the problem?
I just told you. I gave you a legitimate reason why not.
That's no. You can't say I'm scared of needles or it makes me weak. It makes you weak.
On fight day? You want your blood drawn on fight?
Take
yes,
blood
they
the day
were.
of the
He
fight.
wanted it. That's what Floyd wanted.
See, Bob Rum, he's a puppet master. You know what he always says? I was lying yesterday, but today I'm telling the truth. So that means you're lying all the time.
Yeah.
Bottom line is this, y'all. Manny Pacquiao was called by Floyd Mayweather Jr. and said, I will give you $40 million cash.
Yeah, of $500 million?
I'll send you. No,
seriously.
He said, I'll send $20 million up front now. All I'm saying
it's a sucker's offer.
No, fine.
Has he ever made $40 million in a fight
before? It doesn't matter.
No, he has not.
This is the fight.
May I speak? What I'm saying is, Floyd Mayweather made the offer. You said Manny Pacquiao is craving for him. If you're craving for him so badly, why did you take the offer? Because you want the money, because you know that you're having the financial difficulties that Floyd said you're having. Now, having said all of that, here's my thing. Floyd Mayweather Jr., to me, based solely on what I've seen his last couple of fights, there is slippage kicking in. Mm-hmm. And the reason there is slippage kicking in, I believe, is because Floyd is too preoccupied with stuff outside the ring, like promoting and always making money, that he is not as focused as he normally is. That's why everybody's targeting him. That's why Canelo Alvarez is trying to get him back in the ring right now. That's why Miguel Cotto is going to try to get him back into the ring. They saw Madonna, who can't box, who's slow, but still connected with Floyd's face on far too many occasions. They're seeing vulnerability and they're seeing slippage in Floyd, and that's why they're coming at him. I don't like it. I'm concerned about it. But the only thing that I would say is this. The only reason I am concerned is because I'm tired of Floyd taking these fights that people don't care about. I'm tired of him saying he wants to take what people want. He wants to give people the fights they want to see. That is not true. We don't want to see those other fights. We want to see this one. Give us the fight we want to see, and Floyd will be on his A game.
TJ, when will we see this fight?
He will get it done.
2 fights. He's going to fight Amir Khan.
No, it's a waste of time.
Or he'll fight Manny Pacquiao.
I do not think that's a waste of time.
Amir Khan will get destroyed by Floyd Mayweather.
My thinking
with
is
slippage?
this.
Please.
With Canelo going to HBO, and he wants to fight on Cinco de Mayo, if he fights Cotto, Mayweather's going to have to fight Pacquiao to force Canelo off that date.
Okay.
That's what I think.
All right.
Floyd and Pacquiao will fight by May, in my opinion.
And Pacquiao
It's coming May.
And I will be there.
Okay.
I believe it. So
Skip will be there.
I'd be there.
Skip will be there.
Floyd, I really believe that Skip will show up.
I would show up.
I will be in Vegas. Floyd fights Pacquiao. I will be in Vegas for that.
The entire show.
Early.
First take to Vegas, folks.
I'm telling you, we will be. I'm serious.
It's gonna get ugly.
You already know.
We will be there.
Already know.
I'm trying to tell you right now. Now either they're gonna have the show there, or Skip and I are gonna be on remote from there. We gonna be in Vegas. We ain't missing that.
I'm coming too. Don't forget me.
They're trying to leave you out, huh?
I'm telling you right now. However, Floyd, even though there's some slippage, I think it's only because of disinterest and preoccupation.
You know what, too?
Floyd will be focused for Pacquiao and Alvarez.
Pacquiao better hope he can beat Chris Algieri next month.
That's true.
Yeah, that boy, he doesn't have much power, but he can box.
Pacquiao
has a fight next.
Algieri?
Yeah. He don't have much, but he can box, and he's 5'10".
If you don't have power,
but he can box.
You're beating Pacquiao.
This kid can move around. He's well conditioned, and he can box.
Okay, so the end of the discussion is this. You believe that they will fight, and you believe Pacquiao will lose, correct?
He will get destroyed.
Destroyed. And that means knocked out, correct?
Destroyed.
Okay.
Give me a round. Fifth round knockout?
8 to 10 straight right
I'm trying to get him on record.
Pacquiao, the same punch that Marquez caught him with, that's Floyd's money punch. That's what he's going to drop him
check.
with.
He catch with check coming in.
So you think Floyd will knock out Manny Pacquiao?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will be sitting at ringside, and my suit will get splattered with Floyd's blood. That's what I'm predicting.
In a recent sit-down with our very own Chris Broussard, Carmelo Anthony said that he is the most underrated superstar in the NBA. Carmelo also added he doesn't worry about getting the respect he deserves because, quote, in due time, if everything goes well, I will get it. Here's the question. Is Melo right about being the NBA's most underrated superstar? Stephen A. Smith.
No, he is not right. And I've known Melo for years. I've covered him extensively ever since he's arrived in New York. Got a lot of love for him and his game. He's big time. He's one of the top 5 most prolific offensive players of the modern day generation. But I got news for Carmelo Anthony. You ain't underrated when you just signed for $124 million. When we see you, we see $124 million. That means you ain't underrated. It's just that simple. When you couple that with the fact that in your 11-year career, you've been out in the first round 8 times, okay? You've been in the conference finals just once. And just last year, you missed the playoffs. You certainly ain't underrated. Bottom line is simple. If anything, you haven't measured up to expectations because people want to see more from you. Carmelo Anthony is lethal. He's big time. And he's paid like it. Now the only thing left is for him to capture the hardware to validate it, which he has not had.
So you're not saying he's overrated. You're saying people want to see more from him.
We want to see him win.
That's it.
Offensively, there's nothing else to see. He is it. Defensively, obviously he can improve. But you got to get the hardware. Can't be going home in the first round. Can't be missing the playoffs. You are at a staging point in your career where that is no longer acceptable. And the check that you are given says, at the very least, you're going to get us to the postseason.
I am with you. Look, I'm as big a Carmelo fan as you are.
Yes,
He's a top 5 offensive talent. But the truth is, and he's bringing it up, and so I have to respond, he's overrated. As a superstar, I'm sorry, but you have no credentials in the postseason to show me, and you just detailed, and you're making that much money. He is overrated. It is time to put up and shut up here, because why even talk about this now?
Well, the only reason I would say come to his defense, I wouldn't go as far as to be as harsh as overrated, because he was in the West and Kobe and Shaq and San Antonio was there, and in the East, the New York Knicks teams haven't been that great. But he has to step up and prove that he's worth.
And I think he will.
And I think he will too.
All right, Bayless says overrated. You say win. We leave it here. The discussion will pick up tomorrow because there's more debates. 10 a.m. Eastern right here on ESPN2.